is Brian Mericle. I have been working on this manning live project called Asynchronous Event Handling using Microservices and Kafka. And what that is, essentially is my goal was to provide maybe a novice or intermediate developer who had been looking to work with Kafka to give them a sort of like real world scenario where they could actually implement Kafka and in a very simple way, nothing really too advanced, but give somebody a good sort of intro to working with Kafka. In this live stream, I want to sort of work with like, how do you do that from a local developer environment, right? As a developer, we want fast feedback, and what better way to do that than be able to do everything we need to do on our local machines. Now, I'm not inventing this information. All this information is out there online. But as part of my live project, the first milestone that's there is to set up a Kafka to run on your local machine. So today I'd love to sort of show how I've kind of gone through this and kind of take it from there. So essentially, what I start off with is I kind of go to Kafka, plain vanilla Kafka. You probably know there's a company out there called Confluent that provides a kind of a supported version of Apache Kafka, but ultimately they claim sort of compatibility with the open source version. But as a developer who doesn't want to have to worry about licensing and all this other good stuff, like working with open source Kafka makes a lot of sense. And so this is kind of where I started. So what I wanted to do is sort of walk through two different approaches today on how I've worked with Kafka on some local projects. The first is really just running Kafka on your local machine, like running it just install it as a service on your machine. Now, I run a Mac. I know some people probably run Windows. There are some good resources out there how to get a Kafka installed and running on Windows. And I will include a few links in the chat a little bit later on. But I have two sort of good resources. One actually from Confluent on how to run Apache on Kafka on Windows, actually using a subsystem for Linux, which is interesting. And then there's another approach that I found that essentially runs it like you would as a service. And so there is a when you download Apache Kafka, there is a Windows set of scripts that come with it in the bin directory that would allow you to run these things against Windows. For today's demo, I'm just going to show how I do it through a sort of a Unix shell on my Mac. But the process and the steps are pretty much very identical between how you would do it in on the Mac and from and then Windows. So let's dive in here. So one thing I've done ahead of time, I've already downloaded Kafka. You can actually if you go to the apache.kafka.org, you can find where to download it. I'm downloading the latest version just to make it keep the latest. Ultimately, so I've already downloaded the file, and what I've done here is like I don't have anything running locally, and actually I should probably just show you before I do this. Actually, that's not even the right command. I forgot to copy it. Good job. If I can actually select it, so I can copy. All right, so this is the nothing up my sleeves thing. So I have a Kafka directory, but if you look into that, it's just some README file in a Docker folder. So here I'm going to copy from my downloads directory to this directory. And so now if I look here, I have the tarball. And then ultimately I'm going to, I've set up some good commands here to help me work through this. But one thing I wanted to mention is that there's some good references for these things, and I'll try to figure out a way to get to you guys these things, or at least share them in the chat. But one of the prerequisites for doing the local install on your machine is that you need Java. You need a version of Java 8 or better. I feel like as a developer, I've always downloaded the JDK, but I think you can get away with just downloading the JRE, but that mileage may vary. So you need at least Java installed locally to run this on your local machine. So let me go back to my terminal window here, and I'm going to just go ahead and use the nice provided information that Apache gives us out of the box with a quick start, as it works pretty much out of the box. So now that I've unzipped that, we can look here, and now I see a new directory for Kafka. I go in here, I'm going to see a bunch of standard kind of stuff: licenses, notices, config, libs, licenses. But what we're looking at here is for the bin directory. In the bin directory itself is where the scripts are to start and stop the various components that you need to start with Kafka. And as of right now, there are two sort of components that are needed to run in order to get Kafka to run as expected. One is Zookeeper, and the Zookeeper is a server that essentially helps coordinate the communication between the nodes, and then Kafka itself. So there's two services that we want to start with in order to get Kafka running out of the box. So what I like to do here is create a new terminal window, and I'm in the Kafka directory. Let me go ahead and do the first thing. So the first thing you want to do, and this is what's great about these quick start, is it kind of walks you through this, pretty good. And so I didn't want to reinvent this. This is done pretty simply and good out of the box on the Kafka website. So I'm gonna kind of sort of stick the way that they've been doing it here. But ultimately, you want to start Zookeeper. So there's a command here. It basically says do a server start on Zookeeper and then pass in the configuration for Zookeeper. You can configure things in Zookeeper if you really want to get more advanced on your local setup, but really out of the box, it works pretty well. So in my testing and stuff that I've done locally, I just stick with the defaults. There are some, if you really want to sort of make your installation work like your production or your testing environments, then maybe you want to configure this a little differently. But for this case, it really works pretty well out of the box. It starts up pretty quick. Essentially, it doesn't really say like, oh, server started necessarily, but you basically get these little log statements in the background here. I'm not running it in the background. I'm just running it in the foreground. And so as events happen that Zookeeper wants to log, it'll just log it to this window. So it's essentially, it also allows me to really easily shut it down. I just do a Command C, and now it's no longer running. So let me just set that up again. It starts out pretty quickly, a second or so. Let me go ahead and jump to another tab, and let me run the command to start Kafka itself. And it's a very similar setup. There's a server start for Kafka, and also with some config server settings, server properties. You can override them, but like I said, out of the box, it works out pretty well, especially for local development when you're only running on essentially one node in a one node cluster, and that's usually pretty good for testing locally. So yeah, here you kind of get to know it's up and running when you sort of see these last final info statements here. Essentially, it says it started, so it's great. All right, cool. Well, that was a pretty easy, right? Like maybe a couple of minutes of work, and if you're just copy pasting from the start page, it can be even less than that. All right, so the vanilla out of the box works pretty well for what I'm trying to do typically. And if you wanted to, you can definitely start with this and then play it by ear. Like look at the configuration, use the Apache documentation for Kafka to see if there's other properties that may make more sense for your use case. But so right now at this point we have Zookeeper running, we have Kafka running, and essentially that means we have a running Kafka cluster. And what can I do with that now? Well, now we can execute some commands against it. So one of the things that we're looking to do is Kafka is a distributed messaging system using topics and a subscription. So it's a pub sub kind of model, meaning I can send a message to one topic, and I can have multiple subscribers who care about that message and that topic and can take action against that event. Think about an order being placed on a website. We want to be able to maybe decrement the inventory, check for shipping, notify the customer that we've received the order. But those are all sort of triggered off of one event. So the main sort of component that we're looking at in Kafka is basically a topic. So we want to be able to create topics, modify them, delete them, and then eventually be able to send messages to a topic and then receive messages from a topic. And the way I'm going to demonstrate that today is using some command line commands to sort of help illustrate. Like you don't need a working application to actually test that and verify that Kafka is up and running. You can actually execute the scripts that are provided by Kafka to do this for us. So let me go ahead and look at my little cheat sheet here. So I have some good things here I want to showcase. So the one thing I wanted to show is, nothing up my sleeve. We just created this from scratch. What I want to do is I want to list the topics that currently exist. And to do this, we'll use a command that's available another command that's available inside the bin directory called Kafka topics to interact with the topics within Kafka. So here we have the command, and with every command you typically have to send this bootstrap server address, which is essentially Zookeeper's address. Well, actually, no, that's not Zookeeper's address. It's Kafka's address. And then you can sort of run a command called list, and this basically will say, what's over there. And again, it returns nothing because there's nothing there. One nice thing is if I just get rid of this command, and obviously these commands are available in the documentation, but if you're already here, like just want to mess around, you could do like -- help, or you could just hit this command without any supply command. And it kind of gives you what's all is available, which is kind of nice. You can see it all in one. You don't have to leave your screen to be able to see it. So yes, right now we don't have anything in there, and so the first thing I'd like to do is let's create a new topic. And so we kind of use the same topics command. And we're always providing the bootstrap server. We want to do a create, and then we want to give a topic the topic name. I'm going to sort of pretend we're dealing with an order system, and we'll just create a new topic called orders. So you get a nice little message back saying it has been created. And if we went and did our list command again, now we should see one topic called orders. Now, not very much information here. Order, just showing you the topic name is I guess is good from a perspective of, yes, I can verify my topic's been created. But if you like a little more detail, there's a nice little describe command that will basically give you a little bit more information about the topics that are there. So if you give the describe command by itself, it'll list out all the topics that are currently in Kafka and give some pretty good information here. Partition count, replication factor, some configs. So this is like basically what you get out of the box by creating a new topic without any other configuration. And then you also, like you said, if you actually provided just the topic name itself to a describe, it'll only give you the information for that topic. So that's pretty handy. And so then there's a nice little way to clean up your topics if you're ready to delete them. And it's pretty clear, and it's pretty simple. There's a delete command. You pass in the topic that you want to delete, and voila, it goes away. If I describe, I should see no topics because that topic has been deleted, and so we do. Now, this is the simplest way you can create a topic and interact with a topic as far as like the topic configuration through this command. But now let's look at a way that we can add maybe a little more detail. So I want to create a topic, but I want to actually pass it a config, which is basically say I'm going to overwrite the default configuration that the topic has. Now there's tons of different configs that you can use, and you can really tune your topics pretty. There's a pretty wide range of things you can configure, and that's there's this nice little Apache topic configs section in their documentation that kind of gives you some examples, and then gives you a really good description about what all of these parameters, these configuration parameters would do. But out of the box, it pretty much works, the way pretty well for what you would typically want to be testing with in your local machine. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to update or override this max message bytes config. And what this is out of the box, I believe Kafka supports a one megabyte. 1 megabyte. I think 1 megabyte message per message, and so by changing this, you can sort of say like I can streamline how much information I want to have Kafka store and be explicit about try and keep the size down if say you're worried about busting out your disk space on whatever system you're on. You can tune these messages down to be smaller or larger depending on the type of information that you're sending it. I will say that so Kafka uses persistent storage to store its information, so that in the unlikely event of an issue, as long as the disk itself, the volume it hasn't been disturbed or destroyed, Kafka can read back the data that is in that volume of data. So essentially, you can help really tune if you're trying to do cost optimization around the cost of these services, and you want to be considerate of that space, then we can really tune these topics in various ways to help reduce the cost of the infrastructure that would eventually be running these in a production environment. So the only thing different here on running this command is I'm passing now in a config, and the config can take you basically, if you wanted to do another configuration, you just pass in another config switch, and then the name of the property equals the value of the property. So when I hit here, I'm going to basically see the same message I saw at the beginning. We created a new orders topic. If I now go to describe all my topics, I should see one. And now we can see, we have these segment bytes that were sort of here at the beginning. Now we have an additional one called max message bytes. So all the same, things apply here. You can describe it and then delete it and all good kind of stuff. So that's if you already know what the configuration should be out of the box. What we can do is do it all in one fell swoop, create the topic, pass in the config parameters we like, and then we're good to go. But say you don't know that, right? You don't know that I want to minimize my, I want to control the size of the messages that are coming through at the beginning when you create the topic. And so what we can do in that case is we can do it after the fact. So essentially here, let's go ahead and I'm going to delete that topic so I can create it again. Actually, I didn't mean to do that because I want to show that a little bit later. One second. Let me put this back. Got to follow my own script here. So I want to do this with a new server. So a new topic, sorry. I'm going to create a notifications topic. And this topic could be something like, oh, I want to send a message to the customer. I want to send a message to our shipping partners. I want to send a message to fulfillment or warehouse. Like you could send one message saying, hey, this guy has a new order, and these other subscribers of this topic that are interested in that event can then take action on that event. So just like normal, I'm going to create a topic called notifications. That's sort of plain vanilla out of the box. Be like, you know what? 3 days later, I find out that the message is pretty consistently sized. Like I can always make sure that the message is going to be under, a meg in size. And so I want to tune that out. I want to tune it after the fact. So there's another command here called Kafka Configs that you can run to alter the configuration of the topic that's already been created. And so how you do that is you have Kafka Configs script, you pass in your Bootstrap server like always, and then there's a couple of different little nuances to how to tell this configs thing to target what you're trying to change. And that is there's an entity type, you tell it it's topics, and then you give it the entity name, which is the name of the topic you want to change. And then there's this alter command. And then essentially, just like we did when we passed in the configs, whenever we knew ahead of time, we just use this add config parameter switch, and then pass it the same property that we did up above. And so before I do that, though, I want to just show. I mean, you've already seen this a few times, but let's see now what we see when you say describe with no topic name. So I should get 2 topics, which I do. So orders and notifications. You'll see that the notifications topic is just plain vanilla. Now I'm gonna go. Oops, did I do something? Hold on. There we go. So now I'm going to go ahead and alter this topic and add this new configuration that will start limiting the bytes of the message. And we get this nice message back saying it's been complete. And if we go to describe it, I'm just going to pass in the topic just so that we see less noise. And now we see the information on the topic is there, and then it includes my new configuration of max message bytes. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and let's. So that's really like just a few commands I wanted to show in this demo. There's a few other ones that are in there, but these ones are really specific to obviously dealing with topics and the configuration of the topics. Now what I want to show is that we can actually write some commands that can actually start sending messages and then receiving messages from Kafka, from the topics. Let me create a new tab here, and basically we're verifying that Kafka is running, Zookeeper is running. That's all great. We'll get errors back if that's not the case. But essentially here what I want to show is there is this command that's out there that's basically called console producer. And what this does is it runs a program that's just sort of always running in the background here, and allows you just to send messages to whatever topic you've described. And so here's, I'm gonna start this. I'm gonna send a message to our notifications topic. So it's sitting here, it's waiting. It has this little caret here to help you just to know that, hey, I'm ready to receive some input. I'm gonna go ahead and pass in this JSON payload. It really can be any payload. I can actually just start here. I can say hello. In a new window, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna run the consumer. Basically, and it'll allow me to then read from this topic as things are happening. And so that program is called Kafka Console Consumer. I'm targeting the notification topic, and then basically using this switch. This is from the beginning, so I'll get all messages from the beginning of messages being sent hasn't been already retained reclaimed or deleted. So let me run that, and I should see a hello message pop up. And there you are. Hello. And I could say, live stream is awesome. And then I should see it over here. So that's kind of cool. So then, let me go ahead and paste in my, oop, that's not the message I was looking for. This is not the message you're looking for. I could have just hit send, hit enter on that, and that would have just sent the same message. But let me go ahead and type. What I see typically is people send structured documents, structured messages, as events through Kafka. That way it's sort of you can provide structured information in there. It helps the consumers of that message be able to parse it out and in a structured way and stuff like that. So I'll send that, and then essentially I get that message on the other side. Man, that 30 minutes sure went by fast. Looks like I got 4 minutes left. Before I head on, the other thing I was going to show was the next. Essentially, one, there's a cleanup of this. If you want to just you hit Control C and that shut down Kafka. You kind of want to shut down Kafka first because Kafka relies on Zookeeper. So just like you have to run Zookeeper first to launch Kafka. You should do it in the reverse order so it cleans up cleanly, and then take down Zookeeper, and then there's like this nice little also this thing that worries about the logs and temp files that can also be cleaned up if you want to run that too. So that's local. Do it on your local machine. I haven't seen any questions come through, so I'm not sure if anybody has any at this point. I have extra time. I'm not sure how this is going to work from the streaming perspective. This is the first one I've done. But I'm more than willing to stay on a little more if we want to look at my other approach, which is using Docker. I'll say if anybody has any questions or concerns or questions at all, send in the chat and give you like 15 seconds to see something before I move on. It's pretty straightforward, so I think that should be okay. So let me just show the other quick way that I've done this, and this using Docker. Benefits of Docker is you don't have to have anything installed on your machine except for what I've typically see people use Docker Desktop. It's available on Windows and the Mac and Linux actually. So I already have that running. You don't need Java installed in this case because everything is a Docker container, so it kind of works in your benefit from that perspective. There is a Docker Compose file that I've used in reference from. Let me just pull in. So there's a nice little tutorial that this guy put together that worked out pretty well. It made the process really simple, and essentially, he gives out the Docker Compose file and instructions that are really quick to set up. So only prerequisite is Docker Desktop. You can go to that link to get it, and then essentially, let me just go ahead and show you how that works real quick because it's pretty simple. Actually, I'm already there. Am I already there? Yeah, I'm already there. So let me actually want to open up the compose file because it's pretty straightforward. And the reason why we want to use Docker Compose too is that it helps us create and manage running multiple images and containers at the same time. And so it's really straightforward to sort of set this up. So we have two containers that will be running in this process, Zookeeper and Kafka. And I just basically stole this right from that guy's website. It works out great. It has all the right, the standard default ports and the sort of the minimum configuration you would need to get Docker up and running. And so really all you have to do that is call Docker Compose, give it the name of the configuration, say up, and it'll do a bunch of good stuff. All in the the same terminal window. And then essentially it'll let you know when they're both running. Usually when all the logging statements stop running. And so those that are supposedly running, I can say, use a Docker command to say, let me list all the containers that are running, and here we go. These it shows you there's two, one for Zookeeper, one for Kafka. And then I can run some of the similar commands that I've done in the past, right? I can actually execute these commands against the running Kafka image. Essentially, it knows that I'm going to go ahead and run the Kafka topics script, pass in the Bootstrap server, and then create topic orders. It should come back cool, and then I can see, I'm going to describe on it, and it'll show me the topic information. So, and one thing that is kind of interesting is when you're referencing the container, you have to use the right name. When you're doing an ls on the containers, the names show up over here. So just make sure that this is the name of the server that's referencing. But other than that, no, that was pretty quick, but we're over time. So yeah, thank you for joining. I hope to see you guys on the live project. Thanks a lot. I'll see you later.